Well, hello again. I'm Pete English with Keller Williams in the Atlanta Perimeter office. And today we're not going to talk so much about real estate as much as we're going to talk about credit or credit services from the perspective of security. As most of you heard several years ago, Equifax had a security breach that affected a lot of people. Well, a lot of people is to the tune of 148 million people, which is almost half of the population of the United States. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that I've never had my identity hacked. I've had credit cards hacked or stolen, and it seems like every couple of 3 years, American Express will call and say, hey, your credit card number has been stolen. We need to cancel what you're doing, issue you another one, and I'll give kudos to American Express that every time I've gotten another credit card the next day. And it's kind of a hassle, especially when you have automatic deductions taken out. But what happened with Equifax is kind of a big deal. And knowing people that have been through their credit or the identity being hacked, it's not something that I want to do anytime soon. So what has happened recently is Equifax has settled with the FTC, and they've put together a fund and come up with options for people. So what I'd like to do is show you a couple of notes that I've made and encourage you to go to the Equifax site and put in your information to see if indeed you have exposure to your identity being hacked. So let me show you what I've got right here. What we've got is in the Equifax data breach, what happened was when Equifax settled with the FTC, they came out and said, all right, we got almost 150 million people, but when they settled, now this is not final, by the way, so they settled on the 22nd of July, but it's not final. Equifax and the FTC have come out with two options. Options number one is if you file a claim by January the 22nd of 2020, then you can either get $125 cash or you can get credit monitoring services from all three of the agencies, meaning Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, I think that's them, for 10 years plus. Should your identity get hacked, then there's a $1 million identity theft insurance policy to cover you. Now, here's where it gets kind of interesting, because even though option number one is $125, once they have done that and you go out on the website and you see to see if indeed you have been, if you have exposure, well, people have already been doing that, and the reality is in the, what was the fund, the $31 million fund that they have set up to pay people $125, well, there's not enough money in that to cover $125 for everybody that has filed. So it may very well be in your best interest to think about doing the credit monitoring, because what they're offering here is certainly worth way more than $125, considering you've got the credit monitoring for 10 years for 3 of these services. So if I'm reading this correctly, at least for people that I know, $125 doesn't cover squat compared to what your exposure could be. So if we go back and we look at this, most people are never going to have the exposure $125 less, meaning what Equifax is offering is worth more than $125. So what I have done is, if you look at this link right here, if we simply go to this link, and I encourage every one of you to do this, I'll put it in the notes below this video, the link, so all you have to do is click on it like I'm doing here. And once we click on it, it's going to take us over to this Equifax site. Now, just for kicks and grins, let's just put my name in here, all right? And I'll put my last 6 digits of my Social Security number, and then when you click Submit, Based on the information you provided, our records indicate that your personal information was not impacted by this incident. Well, that's interesting because when I did it earlier this afternoon, it said that I was impacted, and what I did is by clicking on it, I went and filed. So it is interesting that I click on it now and it says that, that I am not impacted, but I certainly was impacted when I did it earlier this afternoon. So I don't know what to tell you, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, but I can tell you that if you'll click on the link and you go do it, put in the last 6 digits of your Social Security number and your name and see what happens. Now, I'd also encourage you to do it either for your wife or your husband also. I mean, for that matter, if you've got kids that have credit, I would certainly send the link to them also. But go in, take a look at it. It doesn't cost you anything to file the claim, and if you get 10 years worth of credit tracking, it's well worth it. So anyway, that's all I've got for this week. Hopefully this was helpful, and if I can help you, or you know someone that needs real estate help, certainly give me a call. I'd love to help you, your family, your friends, and until then, we'll talk again. Thanks.